Hi, how are we all doing today? My name is David Gugino, and in today's book review, I'm actually starting a Part 2 series. So for Part 2, we are going to review something different, or try to. Something I have realized is I did not realize that I do not know what I reviewed the last time. I could look at it in my last video, which is what I'm probably going to have to do, but we're going to start Part 2s, and we're going to start Part 2 with this book. Now, the reason I'm starting with this book is because I realized that this character trait of character is something it is very hard for some people to develop, this character trait. And honestly, if you really think about it, when it comes to this particular character trait, it's not that hard. It's basically doing it when honestly you don't want to do it. And that is how you grow. But the book I have for my Part 2 series of all the books I've read is The Power of Discipline by Daniel Walter. Now, if you look at the bottom of the book, it says how to use self-control and mental toughness to achieve your goals. Now, when it comes to developing self-discipline, you gotta think, there are many ways of self-discipline. Working 70 hours a week is self-discipline. No one wants to do that. Working out for 45 minutes to an hour 4 or 5 times a week is self-discipline. Eating less junk food is self-discipline. Now, notice that what I said was small. 70 hours a week is kind of big because that's your time, but let's say junk food, for example. You have 3 pieces of junk food every day. What if you cut out those 3 pieces and replace it with like a fruit or a vegetable? You have to do that one thing. You can do everything else in your life, you just have to do that one thing. Lots of people will not stick with that. And you're probably wondering, well, why? Because they have no self-control. So I guess this book is about self-control and discipline, and the reason why I believe it's so hard to develop is because people don't want to be disciplined. They don't want life to be hard. They want it to be easy, they want everything to be easy, and they don't want to care what other people think. But honestly, sometimes what other people think, or their, their value judgment is reality. So something I really want to influence on this channel and when I review these books is living in reality. Like, we have not proven that we live in the Matrix. Obviously, living in our own world would be better, but our own world is not real. It is in our mind. So living in reality is the premise of this channel and the reason why I review these books. Now, we're going to start off with our first section of this book, and this is talking about sleep. Now, I have recently gotten over a sinus infection, and my sinus infection got cured by, got much better by getting 2 to 3 nights of 11 to 14 hours of sleep. Now, I am single, I don't have any kids, and it was my day off of work. So that is why I found the time to sleep that much, but I was also getting sick, so I chose to rest. But we're going to talk about sleep, so listen to what he has to say about bedtime routine. Listen to this. Arguably, this is true, but what you may not know is that the quality of your sleep is more important than the quantity. Do you wake up feeling drained and tired no matter how many hours of sleep you get? That's because you're not getting good quality sleep. And the reason is that you've got a terrible nighttime routine. So, nighttime routine is if you choose to play video games or watch a movie over having a good nighttime routine, that's not good. That is the epitome of what I want my nighttime routine to be. My nighttime routine consists of bathing, reading a few pages in a book, preparing for my job, and then going to sleep. And I do get a very good 6.5 hours of sleep on days that I work. On days that I don't, I try to get about 10. Because I do believe that when it comes to sleep, or even when you're single, you can. Because eventually when you get married and you have kids, you're not going to be able to sleep that much. Also, I do believe 2 to 3 nights a week, you should at least get 10 hours. Because 10 hours every night is hard. But the time I get up in the morning, I have to be in bed by 8 to get the 10 hours of sleep. And sometimes for people that's just hard. But have a good nighttime routine. And a good nighttime routine is something that relaxes your mind. Because playing video games, you don't want your mind racing while you're playing video games and you turn off and you're like, wow, I didn't get to this level but I have to go to sleep. Like, you want something that relaxes your mind and something you don't have to think about through the night before you go to bed. So think about that. Now we're going to move on to the next section of our book. Now, before we move on to the next section, I want to read what the author has to say on the back. Listen to what he has to say. Join a gym. Achieve your goals in record time. Join a gym. Start a healthy eating plan. Save more money. Stop smoking. The list of New Year's resolutions is endless, but how many of them are ever accomplished? According to Scranton psychology professor John C. Norcross, PhD, less than 10% of New Year's resolutions are achieved. How would you feel if I told you that your inability to achieve your goals does not arise because you are lazy or lack of drive, but rather it's a problem because you have never been taught how to practice self-discipline? Self-discipline is like a key. It unlocks the door to personal fulfillment and opens the door to the life you have been dreaming of. With self-discipline, the average person can rise further than intelligence and talent alone will take them. And the ordinary person can become extraordinary. Discover how you can develop the most important skill required to achieve the life you desire, self-discipline. It's impossible to buy back the time you have lost, but you can take control of your future. It says take control of your future. You can't predict the future because the mindset that I hate is like, oh, I could die tomorrow. I could be disciplined and die tomorrow. Well, you died doing self-discipline. Also, you can't think that way. It really bothers me when people think that way because they think that since their world revolves around them, they think they can think the way they want and act the way they want. Just be like, well, because I'll die tomorrow, so it's no big deal. No. Because for one, in God's plan, if He showed you your plan right in front of you, which is not a good idea, you could live a full life. He could be like, hey, you live a full life. It just matters what you do with it. And then, or, yeah, you die at 55, but you're 20. Yeah, I'm 20, but you die at 55. You got 35 years to make a life. So that mindset really bothers me. Don't have the mindset of, you're going to die tomorrow. That's a good point in this. That is a good point. Don't ever have that mindset because you have a life to live and you're living right now in the present moment. You can take control of your future, though. You can take control of your future. Now, the next section I have is your willpower protection. So listen to what the author has to say about willpower. Listen to this. When the brain is operating in survival mode, it begins to crave instant gratification, which leads to binge eating and other negative behaviors linked to lack of discipline. Therefore, the best way to build self-discipline is to remove yourself from temptation. For example, if you are struggling with your diet, replace your cupboard of unhealthy foods with healthy choices and meals. When you go grocery shopping, stay away from the aisles selling sweet treats and immediately make your way to the aisles stocking healthy foods. By using these strategies, your willpower is only tested during the time you spend in the store as opposed to trying to resist the temptation to eat your stash of cookies in the cupboard every evening over and over again. Another way to protect your willpower is to go shopping after dinner. You won't be hungry because you've just consumed a filling, healthy meal, which means you are less likely to buy a bag of chips to hold you over until dinner. What you are doing here is creating conditions in which your vulnerability is not used against you, and you are not forced to use self-discipline even if you don't struggle with healthy eating. You can use the same strategies for any areas of your life where you lack self-discipline. That was a lot, but I really like that idea there. If you're struggling with buying unhealthy foods, just eat a big dinner and then go grocery shopping after so you won't buy those things. But also, notice what he says here, even if you don't struggle with healthy eating, you can use the same strategies for any areas of your life where you lack self-discipline. So for example, before you're like with the video game example, playing video games before bed. What if you were like, you had 2 hours of your day where you're going to be like, you know what, I'm going to play 2 hours of video games, and when that 2 hours is up, I'm not going to touch it. Because you got to think, you have 2 hours to play video games. You play them for 2 hours. That is enough time to get where you want to do, to have fun, the fun you want to have, and that's it. But let's say, oh, I want to play with friends, and it's kind of before bed. Well, see if you can convince your friends to get on earlier, play for 2 hours, and then cut it off. And then, like with going to the gym, for example, spend an hour at the gym. That's the goal of every day. Spend an hour at the gym. You can go wherever you want, just as long as you spend an hour at the gym. But when it comes to willpower protection, you do want, like, there are ways to protect your willpower so you don't give in to your urges, if that makes sense. So, temptation to eat a stash of cookies out the cupboard every evening over and over again. What if you didn't have a stash of cookies? What if you got rid of the stash of cookies? Or what if you put a lock on it and left yourself a note being like, hey, we're going to have 3 cookies each day, and then we're going to stop here? What if you did something like that? Like you left yourself a note to remind yourself. Because sometimes your habits or your bad habits take a hold of you and you don't even realize it. But that's why there's willpower protection. You protect your willpower so you do not give in to your addictions or things that are affecting your self-discipline. So think about that. For the third and final section of this book, we are going to review. Now for the third and final section of this book, we are going to talk about saying thank you and making time for gratitude. So listen to what the author has to say about saying thank you and making time for gratitude. Listen to this. We often take the things people do for granted. We can eliminate this oversight by saying thank you for the small things instead of waiting for someone to do something mind-blowing. If you are in a relationship, thank them for being a beautiful person. If you've got kids, thank them for being so loving. Thank your friends for being such amazing friends. The aim here is to say thank you and really mean it and feel a sense of appreciation. Make time for gratitude. Another bad habit is constant complaining. It's easy to complain. We live in a world with terrible things going on. It's difficult to turn on the TV, flip through the newspaper, or listen to the news and assume that there is no hope. However, it's important not to focus on the negative because there are just as many positive things taking place in the world. Every morning or before you go to bed at night, write down 5 things you are grateful for. Think about them and feel a deep sense of appreciation and gratitude for what you have written down. So there are 2 sections here. Say thank you, make time for gratitude. And notice another bad habit is constant complaining. 70% are going on 80% of people in America hate their job. Paycheck. Now, my job, what I do is not hard. It can be labor, but I do some overtime, but I work 3 days a week, and when I do overtime, I work 4 days a week. The 4th day is enough money to pay my bills, set money aside for retirement, and to fill my bank account. Now, you also might think working 5 days out of the week would be more money, but I do believe that living a life is more important than work. I also believe that in life you have to have a little bit of fun, in my opinion. But like I took my 3 days off this week because I did have a sinus infection. I wanted to rest and let my body sleep. But when it comes to saying thank you, notice what he says here. Thank your friends for being such amazing friends. Your friends are there for you. A lot of people don't think about that. Your friends are there for you. If they weren't there for you, they wouldn't hang out with you. They would not talk to you. But that's why having a group of friends or amazing friends of those who are there for you and make yourself feel welcome and buy you things, that's what makes them good people. That's what makes them such great people. But you do want to think though. Thank them for being amazing people. They might be like, wow, thanks. They might be embarrassed by it. They might not. They might think it's weird, but thank them for being amazing people. Thank them for letting you be a part of their lives, because they're there for you. And then when it comes to constant complaining, have you ever thought of just not complaining? It's easy to complain like what he says here. But with all the terrible things going on in the world, you're complaining about your job. You're complaining you got a flat tire. You're complaining that you took too much time doing something and now you're late to your job. Notice most of those things are your fault. Now sometimes things just happen. You should have checked your tire pressure. You should have made a time to stop doing what you're doing so you could be on time for work. What was the other example that I just used? Oh, I can't remember, but yeah, but you ever thought of just not complaining, just letting it go? Because it doesn't matter. The world is not going to come save you for the things. Now, and also complaining, as in some people do have certain lives that I'm shocked that they live through, and they probably have their fair share of complaining, but they're like, you know what? I was put through this for a reason, and I'm going to make my life better no matter what. And that's the mindset you need to have when you think of complaining. Just be like, I'm going to make my life better no matter what. I'm going to make my day better. I'm not going to let this flat tire ruin my day. I'm not going to be being late for work ruin my day. So that's something you want to think about. Now, I really like this book. I hope you all took something home with it. And the takeaway for this video is say thank you and be grateful. And say thank you to your friends for being such amazing friends. Thank your family for taking care of you. Thank your boss for giving you a job. But say thank you and be grateful. So I want to thank you all for sitting with me through the power of discipline. I hope you use self-control, or I hope you are, or have a great deal of self-control in your life. I hope that you I hope that you have mental toughness to achieve your goals, and I really hope that your self-discipline is something in your life. Be grateful, say thank you, And I want to thank you all for watching, and you all have a great day.